Hey, listeners. Thanks for tuning in to our first Excellerate podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Gilman. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer here at NWN Carousel. And in case you don't know who NWN Carousel is, we are the leading cloud communication service provider in North America. We service over 7,000 clients across state and local education, across commercial, you name it. We are working with them, and we are so grateful to be in a position to serve so many organizations as they transition from on-premise to the cloud across their entire stack to help them deliver better employee experiences and better customer experiences. So we created this series really with the hopes of connecting you with our team members, fellow technologists, IT leaders, thought leaders, to really go in depth into some of the areas that are most important. And today we have a very special guest for our inaugural Excellerate podcast, which I'm very excited. And by the way, this is my first podcast series. So Eric Bostick, our CTO, we are so grateful for your time to explore all the tech trends that you're seeing, in and amongst our customer base and with our and within our partner base as well, for that matter, and the industry at large. So let's cue up the special effects intro to this awesome Excellerate podcast, and we'll get things started. Hey, I'm back. Andrew Gilman here, your host for the Excellerate podcast series. Today, I'm talking with a very, very in-demand person at NWN Carousel. He's, I can't believe we got him for the next few minutes. Eric Bostick, our Chief Technology Officer. Eric has well over 20 years in the IT industry. He's been at NWN Carousel for over 15 years, seeing the company through explosive growth. And his primary responsibilities here are really the day-to-day offer management, which includes working with all of our customers, partners, and delivery teams to make sure we're staying up to speed on everything that they need. Eric, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Andrew. I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Hey, maybe you could give us a little bit more about your background before and during your time here at NWN Carousel.
Yeah, 15 years feels like an eternity in the IT industry. So being here, I've watched us grow from being a pretty small regional company to a $1 billion run rate company. So I'm pretty excited. We've evolved and changed a lot over the years and grown a lot with our customers and with our partners. So I'm pretty bullish on the future and where we're going and some of where we have the alignment today. And I'm pretty excited overall. It's changed a lot. Technology's changed a lot. But that's why we're in this industry. You don't want to be stagnant, right? So.
Absolutely. Well, there's a saying that goes, there are some years where, decades happen, and there's some decades where, nothing happens. I think over the past 24 months, it's felt like literally decades and decades of innovation and changes have gone on. Maybe we can talk about that, a little bit of like, hey, what have you seen as far as technology changes over the past year?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think, talking to our customers, talking to our partners, a lot's changed. I would say there hasn't been a lot of true advances, but the adoption of technology has just been on an absolutely accelerated pace. I mean, when you think back to 2 years ago of, talking about church services being online or school and everybody doing remote schooling or any of the other industries and how they were affected, people would have been like, there's no way we can go do that stuff. That's just, why would we want to? But they didn't have a choice. And it's been truly amazing to watch adoption of technology within different sectors, within the healthcare marketplace, within the consumer marketplace. It's just made everybody have to take a step back and think differently. And I think it's accelerated adoption tremendously. There's people that just would not adopt certain technologies in the past, and they haven't had an option not to in the past 24 months just to be able to keep pace and keep their business operating.
Absolutely. This reminds me, again, back down in memory lane, of the 2007, 2008 timeframe when data centers, right, went from, you had all this virtualization, you had all this stuff. It was sort of the precursor to the cloud. And they were doing kind of tier 2 applications, right? You had print and file shares, but you weren't running your Oracle systems. You weren't running your mission critical systems in these, shared resource model, AKA cloud precursors, right?
Yep.
And, what we saw over the past couple of years is, maybe once in a while you went on a virtual meeting maybe use unified communications when you were homesick or when you were traveling, but it wasn't where you were living your life like we
Yeah.
are today.
No, you're spot on. And I think there's a couple things, like as far as video is just not an optional thing anymore. I mean, FaceTiming used to be something you did with family or this and that through iPhones. Now, I don't get on a meeting without a video type of messaging turned on, or being able to ensure you get to see the other person's face and have that interaction, because people crave it. They need to be able to have that interaction with people. Video is key. The collaboration experience overall is key. And then at the end of the day, I think really people have turned around and figured out they have to have a solid device. I mean, the interaction for being able to do work starts with having something that works and is secure. And the PC is not just a desktop anymore, not just sitting somewhere where you come and you log in. I mean, work is something you do, not a place you have to go to anymore. And I think
Absolutely.
In order to do that work, you have to have a solid equipment to be able to get it done. And that's where the technology adoption has been so critical.
Yeah, let's double click on there. So, I mean, to take a step back, this is really the theme for today, which is, hey, what's changed? What do we see happening in 2022, as a continuation of maybe 2021? But what are some of the key things that people should be thinking about as they relate to technology adoption, as it relates to what they need to do to go and make for better employee experiences, make for better customer experiences? Hybrids thrown around a lot. You mentioned video. Let's double click on, having a good quality video system, right, is sort of the end state, right?
Yeah.
What goes into it from, when you go and you talk to a customer? I know you have an engineering background, networking, security. When I'm sitting here talking to you on a podcast on my device, and we have great video because we're riding on an NWN Carousel back end and we're eating our dog food. What goes into that? Like, what do people ask you about making this all work, as far as it goes from an infrastructure, security, kind of, how does that work?
Yeah, no, and I think you bring up a good point, because a lot of people are starting to reimagine what that new workplace looks like. A lot of companies a lot of our customers have had office space sitting there that's gone empty for 18 months, almost 2 years now. And they're really starting to debate if they need some of that office space. So they're either looking at downsizing, or they're looking at changing the office space to be more of that community workflow or guest offices, if they even need offices anymore. So I think, how does technology change that? Well, I think there's a couple different ways. Those video rooms of the old, with cables hanging everywhere and people taking 10 minutes to set up a meeting, and what was the last input on the TV that was used, all we can't have that anymore. It should walk in and it should just be able to connect to the meeting, and you should be able to have that great experience with the video cameras that go in and out and the sound that makes you feel like you're just there. And if that user that walks in to use that room doesn't necessarily have the most technical background, they should be able to get help quickly. And it should be in layman's terms, not someone they're going to talk to that's going to ask them about a whole bunch of IP addresses and things that they probably don't know much about. They need to just be able to have a point and click and touch and scan, and this is what you do, and this is how we do it. And we have some of those today with our video offering.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, Eric, because I was talking with a customer last week, and they were like, I haven't been in the office in like 18 months. And I went in, and not only did I didn't have a desk, but I had to get on a video conference meeting with my boss, and I couldn't find the room to do it in, and right, and my network credentials were changed because I hadn't been in the office in 18 months. So therein lies, I think, what a lot of organizations are facing as they've changed and adapted, right? How they've rolled that out and how they've updated and kept their employees who may have been at home, not back in the office. How do you see that kind of playing out over 2022?
Yeah, I think in 2021, I think there's been a lot of dabbling with it. So what do we need to do? Let's try this. Let's try that. Let's figure out our company policies. I mean, I think it was even last summer, people were still debating, And some of our partners still have a no travel policy. They are not allowed to go back in the offices. So I think a lot of bigger companies are still struggling with what does our policies need to be? And then once those are set, how does IT support it? But I think to your point, once they get those policies in place, I think in 2022, IT has to be able to support whatever makes the business run. And I think there's a couple ways to do that. The office space is going to need to change. You're going to need video. It's not optional anymore. You're going to have potential devices coming into a network that you may not have control over anymore. So having some type of network access control for security in place is going to be key. I think as you start thinking through the wireless networks, the location tracking capabilities, making sure people can come to an office that they know is clean or know is available and not necessarily have to walk all the way around an office searching and asking everyone, hey, is anyone using this today? Being able to use the technology through the wireless networks and through the video rooms and the collaboration tools to guide people to spaces that are available, that's real. That's available today. And it just helps someone when they come back to the office have a better experience. To the example you talked to, instead of walking in and having to see where my office is at or where things are going, I mean, we want to be able to make that more efficient and make that easier for the people and make the employees comfortable. I think a lot of.
So what does that look like, Eric? Let's get down to brass tacks. Like, what are some of the new things? Like I saw in our office, we have these like QR codes on the doors.
Yep.
That we could kind of pull it up instead of fumbling around, or we could kind of get help right away on a video chat around how to do our work, because that's like a whole new thing, you know. And IT may or may not be staffed for that kind of level. So that's where, you know, something like our services come in. Certainly, again, eating our own dog food, helping to make a Luddite like myself, you know, more productive. But you know, what does that actually look like? What are those some of those cool new areas that you've seen out there with customers?
Yeah, I think, so back to the device, I think it all starts with having a solid device. Some of the new technology that I've personally seen is there's software out there now that allows you to evaluate that digital experience. So what is the user doing? Are they happy with the video experience? Are they happy with how the PC is performing? Being able to participate in some of that survey technology and allows a support organization to also support those end users a lot more effectively than they have in the past, regardless if they're at a coffee shop or at a home office or returning to the office. So I think the PC is the critical start. And then the security components that come with it. There's so many cloud-based security tools now. You want to pick the right ones, and then also make sure that when you pick them, you know, they're not just working in a silo. You want to make sure the tools that you pick for your security strategy tie together nicely and they operate as an orchestra, because you don't want a bunch of different tools that don't interact with each other, because then you're just stuck in a big security problem. And then as you go through that, you know, getting into home offices, there's a tremendous amount of standardizing that experience, extending a network. So if I was a CIO at a customer, I could really turn around and think about, I might extend my network physically to all of my employees' homes. How am I going to support that? But I want to give them that same experience, and the technology is there, the bandwidth is there through the service providers that we can provide, giving that SASE application, secure access service edge, leveraging SD-WAN technology into people's homes to be able to get to the right application the quickest way possible. There's a lot of options there for the network connectivity, and I think, you know, making sure that you sit down and you would design what hybrid work looks like moving forward and what to standardize on has to be a top priority for our customers. But if you focus on the employee experience, you start with the PC, you get into security, you think about the home office, and then you think through the new office space, the technologies available through NAC, through wireless location tracking, through new software. There's definitely software for analytics on where problems are around the internet to be able to help you troubleshoot. And then making sure your IT staff can support those users, because it's not easy. You want to give your employees some self-service capabilities for some of the tools, empower them to manage their own experience, and that will help with the IT team support. But you also want to enable that IT team to reach out to the experts when they need to and give them the analytics and the reports they need readily available in some type of cloud interface, because it's not four-wall building anymore.
Absolutely. Well, that leads us to our next topic, which is we've heard a lot about people who are just, you know, ready to quit, who are stressed, who are just, especially technologists and IT teams who now maybe they were focused on an office environment. And to your point, now they're covering all these different areas. They have the core network, they have the home network. They're like, we're not the Geek Squads, we're not Best Buy, but yet they're being expected to do all this extra work, right?
Right.
I think, there's a concept of sustainability, right? This is not this whole hybrid work environment is kind of the cat's out of the bag. And, employees, I read a survey, employees really want the best of both worlds. 70% of employees, want a flexible remote work option, yet 65% of them want more in-person time with colleagues. So it's like everyone wants something and you're not going to be able to please everyone, but we know we have to do this differently to make it sustainable, as a work style.
Yeah.
So how are we thinking about that?
Yeah, it's all great. So a couple things there. I think for an IT support model around hybrid work, it's a challenge. You can't just walk down the hall and support someone's PC anymore. You can't go down and just, log into the main switch and be able to do some troubleshooting very quickly, because now that switch could be all over the internet. So there is a tremendous amount of support challenges that people need to think through in their hybrid work strategy. I think the more things move to cloud and being able to have access to the analytics and being able to get reports and real data on utilization of where equipment's at, I think is going to be key. Because we're in IT, challenges are always going to happen. I mean, it's never a question of if, it's just a matter of when. So being able to be prepared to handle those challenges with the right tool set and a support infrastructure, and most of our customers can't go have experts in every technology they're going to need moving forward. So relying on those right partnerships to help in the areas where you need that support is going to be critical. And I think for the employee experience, like you say, the great resignation or people changing jobs, I've heard, it's a reality. I mean, giving employees the right experience to be able to do their job regardless of where they work, or if they're at home, or if they're at the office, or if they're at a coffee shop, I think is critical. And that needs to be taken into account as customers are thinking about the employees and the efficiency that they can do their job and really driving the overall business. Because if your employees aren't efficient in what they do, it's going to affect your bottom line.
Absolutely. And I think, to go back into a little bit of history, maybe 10 years ago, there was a concept of just the consumerization of enterprise IT, which was a big theme. And I think, if I reflect on my own experience, right, prior to coming to NWN Carousel, right, I had kind of an older laptop and sort of an older system, and it wasn't really up to what I had at home, on my own personal side. And so it was a little bit of a frustration that I didn't have as good, if not better, work setup, to do my job, right? And it was sort of like every opportunity, there was friction introduced that made already a challenging, opportunity really even harder, right? And so I think that's some of what we're seeing in this whole resignation or frustration or whatever, is that there's a mismatch between expectations that employees have and the reality of the investments and the approach, given just a transformational shift that every organization's had to make, to just survive over the past 24 months, and everyone's looking for, okay, what's our plan going forward? I know thanks to you and your team, on the EMP side, we have a tool here that at least gives me self-service access to some of my capabilities that I need to do my job, which is like call forwarding, and you can see analytics and sort of do self-care, self-help with something that we call our experience management portal. Maybe you can talk a little bit about how that works and all that. But, that's sort of in my mind, like, hey, I can do this self-service, self-care work on my own work, like on my personal life. Like I can go into my 401k, I can go into my Google, and I can make all these changes and I can have control. But then if I didn't work for NWN Carousel, if I had all this frustration to just do my job, like that would just suck. And, I might be less happy than I am today. So maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
I think you nailed it right there, Andrew, with the correlation to your personal life, to your work life. I think the pandemic has driven everyone to be more technology friendly, and we're using things in our personal life now through different applications, or, you call someone's contact center, you're the end customer, but you're really seeing what those experiences are like. We now have a better appreciation for the technology in our personal lives, and that expectation is translating into what we're given as employees in a work life. So if we have a great laptop at home with a great camera and we use it to interact and do a lot of gaming or do a lot of different personal passions, then when we come into an office or we go to work, we would like to see the same type of technology available to us to be able to do our jobs. And I think regardless of that location, that's going to be key. So when you start thinking through the collaboration tools, I mean, there's a lot of collaboration tools out there. I know I have like 4 or 5 of them loaded on my laptop based on which partner I'm talking to that day. But they're having a consolidated strategy for our customers and making sure it may not be one tool. Maybe you need a couple tools, but having the administrative capability as an IT organization to support across multiple tools is one of the things our experience management platform brings. And then given that self-service capability, as you said, being able to empower the users for self-service in a cloud-based world, and then also provide the analytics to the IT team that can troubleshoot problems when they occur is absolutely critical, and it's one of the big parts of our experience management platform.
Yeah, so that leads me to sort of the next segment, which is you wrote this 3-part blog series that we published on our website that was just, I thought it was definitely insightful. I think, would love to get the background. It sounded like you worked with some of the other folks if you want to introduce the folks on your team. But you hit that nail on the head on your first prediction for 2022, which is visibility is key to digital transformation. The people, the process, the technologies for 2022, is really important. So maybe you could, one, talk a little bit about your predictions for 2022. We're in 2022, so hopefully they all come true. But maybe you could talk a little bit about that series that you had in the first one about visibility and why visibility into what you're doing is so important.
Yeah, it's a good point. So I think a couple things there. So hybrid work's here to stay in 2022, and it works. We've proven it works. So everyone needs to challenge themselves to think a little differently. I think when you take a step back as an organization for your employees, or even in your personal life, you challenge yourself to think differently, because that digital transformation, a little bit of an overused term in the industry, but transitioning that experience to a digital experience, I think, is key. And I think when we can do that, and we do it really through the collaboration tools, so the first part of the UC piece, and it wasn't just me that wrote it, so I'll take some credit, but there's definitely a group of team around me that helped support that. So Alvaro Riera helped us in that collaboration one, but the self-service, the cloud-based portal, having on-premise UC systems, it doesn't scale anymore. You need to have UC tools, collaboration tools for instant messaging and for calling that allow you to give your employees as much flexibility as they need. And they need to interoperate with each other. And you need the detail and the analytics. And I think that's what Alvaro tried to hit on in part of what he said there. The user-centric collaboration platform is key. You need to design a collaboration experience for your end user. And that may be different for certain groups within your company, but it needs to be specific to them, and you need to be able to manage it easily as we move forward in 2022.
Absolutely. I love what Alvaro said, on the blog. He said, meetings won't go away. 98% of meetings will have at least one remote participant. I definitely see that, every day with our customers and with our own internal teams. And he said that even if the majority of participants are in a smaller huddle room, remote users really need that equality, right? They need to be able to participate equally, right? And he also said that 96% of employees expect the office space to look different, and employers will need to be able to really have differentiated office experiences to attract, retain workers. And I think a lot of what we're trying to do here is like, hey, you mentioned the laptop experience. Like, when is a laptop not a laptop? It's when you're doing everything that you need, and it's actually a strategic asset, right? To get people productive, to retain people, to make sure that they're not fatigued, right? Of like downloading patches and slow internet and all this stuff. So I think that's huge, and definitely echo a lot of what Alvaro was saying on a look ahead side,
And then on the second one on that first blog post was around contact center. And I think
Absolutely.
we've all experienced, good and poor contact center experiences in our personal lives as we're calling and looking for support. The great experiences are when they know you're calling, they know your history. I mean, you don't have to go through a whole question answer session with 5 different people before you actually get to talk to someone to solve your problem. And I think you have the poor experiences where, I call in as a user, they don't know who I am, they don't know my history, and I'm really having to go through almost a question answer with every single person I talk to. So being able as a business to be able to give that super intelligent agent experience, leverage the AI capabilities within the contact center to be able to go and pull customer data, arm those contact center agents with the right data to give that employee experience. I think, at least for me in my personal life, the better experience I have for support, I do go spend more money with those customers or with those companies, because it just makes me feel that there's a higher touch there, not always by talking to a person, but leveraging the artificial intelligence, getting my questions answered, getting it resolved quickly. It goes a long way in overall supporting a business.
Absolutely. I think it goes back to what we were talking about before around, hey, taking friction out of just getting what you need done as quickly as you can. Part one is on the agent side, right, with sort of the staff shortages and really trying to get people productive and happy and kind of, feeling like they're doing a good job. Kevin Bazin, who leads our contact center, practice here at NWN Carousel, he said that his prediction is that with short to medium term supply chain issues, continuing into 2022, that organizations are going to be budget constricted and forced to do more with less or the same, and the focus is going to be shifting from cost savings to cost avoidance, with ROI again being even more prevalent. Do you agree with that? How have you seen that manifest in some of your customer conversations as it relates to contact centers?
Yeah, I mean, contact centers, they're just key to our customers driving business. So, and they're not always that much fun because it's a lot of sort of mystery for customers on the backside of how to support them, how to go into it, but they are critical. A lot of people are looking at that on-prem contact center, which is not that easy to support with their own IT team, looking and thinking there has to be a better way to roll out changes, update the experiences. And the cloud contact center technology is really taken off because there is an ease of rolling out feature changes to agents, rolling out things better. So back to the point of cost avoidance or whatnot, I think it's really leveraging the cost, the quickest time to be able to get the experience and the evolution, because changing contact center technology is not always easy in the on-prem world. It takes a lot.
Time to value, right?
Exactly.
Time to value and time to impact. I think that's another thing that we've saw, especially during the pandemic and even post quote unquote post pandemic, is that, getting information to people in a bi-directional way, is super important, right? We have some customers who are in the public realm, public safety and other realms of have to disseminate information, but also have to receive information. So omnichannel becomes super important, to be able to not just call out, but to take calls, to take chats, to take, to connect with people. If somebody doesn't have a computer and they can't, log in and chat, you have to have lots of different ways to connect with your users to drive that experience. And then the other one, you mentioned cloud contact centers. I remember a story about a customer, the statistic was like people used to, the average life cycle for a contact center was like 30 years, right? And it took years and years and years and it sort of stuck. But now that we had a client, during the pandemic again, who had to quickly mobilize to get critical information about vaccines, and we spun up a cloud contact center in like 2 weeks, had it fully staffed, and we're able to support that municipality with critical, life-saving critical information. Again, the power of the cloud, right? Not just a buzzword, not just a hot topic, not just a, flavor of the month, but something that actually has a huge impact.
Yeah, you're spot on. And finding those use cases and those needs. I think the vaccine distribution was a huge one. Being able to stand that up quickly, no one knew that was coming. But when they found out, they had a 30, 45-day window by the government that they had to go do that. And I think getting that stood up quickly And part of it's the contact center technology, but having the laptops, making sure they're secure, having the staffing there that's available. A lot of customers are looking at contact center staffing all around the country now. Yeah. Now that the employees can work wherever based on cloud contact centers, they're not limited on where they can staff those contact center agents anymore, which I think brings up a whole nother, opportunity for the technology and extending the network and making sure it's secure. But that's a real world scenario.
I think we just came up with a new book topic.
Oh, we did.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. I think there's a lot of analogies. Remember the book, The World is Flat?
Yeah.
Maybe we come up with a book that's the contact center is flat, because now it's sort of like anywhere, can be anywhere on demand. You could be an agent, anywhere and really have all the tools at your disposal to have that omni-channel experience and to have a great productive career, in something that typically didn't, it was kind of harder. You had to be at a call center. It's some of those call centers, let's be honest, right? Pretty tough place to work in that environment. Now you can be anywhere and in a place that you're most comfortable and have more of that work style that maybe is more conducive to, your family situation, your health situation. I think it really opens up a lot of opportunities out there to just flatten everything.
I agree 100%. And I think, we've even seen it as well with our internal contact center staffing for our customers and our internal employees. It worked very well remotely for the past 18 months. I mean, it saved people on commute time. A lot of agents were happier at the end of the day because they didn't have to sit in an hour or 2 hours worth of traffic each day getting in and out. So I think there's definitely a lot of positives that can come with it. But I want to double down on something you said there as well on the omni-channel experience. Just in my personal life, it's so funny showing the differences in generations. My dad is doing some things with my daughters right now, and my dad likes to email. So he's constantly emailing my daughters, and my daughters have an email account, but they never log in and check it because they do everything through text or through some of the different social apps. So my dad is always saying, hey, well, I sent the girls an email. And I'm like, Dad, you do appreciate they don't check email anymore. They do texting. He's like, but I have so many things to put in. I can't type it all in a text. I'm like, it's just the generations and how they want to communicate. And I think to double down on your omni-channel point, whether it's through texting, whether it's through the social media channels, whether it's through email, or whether it's through picking up the phone, our customers have those challenges because all of their customer base may want to communicate differently. And I think the rapid response and also making sure that customer engagement, that experience is really good, that's going to be the key in the contact center world moving forward.
Absolutely. And again, just to reflect on one of my best contact center experiences ever, I had I got a new watch, right, that I was trying to connect to my phone and the internet and like the cell phone, whatever. And I started a text, a text chat, live chat with a contact center agent. And, it got really complicated, it's sort of like, hey, after 2-3 minutes trying to figure it out, I reset it. I did everything they said. It wasn't working. And then, as it got harder, I got a phone call from the agent, right? So it was like progressively more helpful and kind of flowed with the conversation. So it didn't have to I wasn't redirected. I didn't have to I wasn't on hold. They had sort of the whole thing ready to go and had sort of the next level of technical help ready. And that was just, I'll be a customer for life, right? It was just so frictionless. And it took probably a 10th the time it would have taken, even if I tried to figure it out or tried to call back or whatever. It was just one and done. So I think we're seeing all this stuff in the contact center, and we're working with a lot of organizations, to not only design that strategy, because, let's be honest, there's 37,000 tools and products and capabilities that you should buy to set up the perfect kind of contact center of the future. I think that's one of the benefits that our customers love working with us is hey, we have the playbook. It's as a service. Of course, you can have fries with that. Of course, there'll be customization, but we've been doing this for 30 years. And, going from on-prem to the cloud is sort of something that's in our bread and butter. And we're doing all over the country, at a pretty big scale.
Yeah, so and then being able to provide the analytics and everything with it and the reporting is key. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Analytics, reporting, and something you mentioned earlier, our next topic is security, right? What are some of the areas you mentioned, like attack surface area of extending the network and patching? What are you seeing for this year that's different than last year in the security space as we look to shift to this more hybrid ready kind of workforce?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I mean, security is sort of like video isn't optional anymore. It's funny. I've talked to a few different people in the security industry lately, and they're concerned more about what's going on in people's home networks that their employees are plugging into and again connecting back to the corporate network more than what's going on at the coffee shop for that remote user. So because in each of our homes, we have kids that do gaming, or we have online learning going on, or I'm sure not all of us have all the right antivirus software and access control in our home network. So there's a lot of potential there. And I think for people that have roommates, for example, contact center agents sitting there taking credit card information over, who's listening as you're repeating the credit card number back over the phone. So I think there's a lot that people are getting their eyes open to. I heard someone say the other day that it was around, security was everyone's top concern until it wasn't anymore, because they had to have everybody home and working. So they just had to get them home and had to get them communicating. And they sort of forgot around security to an extent. So there's definitely some technologies out there. There's some architectures in play, secure access service edge, making sure you can combine those home networks in a secure manner and make them part of your infrastructure with the right DNS technology, with the right multi-factor authentication, with the right access control. All of those are absolutely key, because you're not quite sure where the threats were. It's not necessarily just the four walls of your corporate buildings anymore and everybody VPNing in. It's a lot more of, hey, I'm at my house and I need to access a cloud application, and I want to do that without setting up a VPN tunnel in and out of a corporate network. That's a reality, and that's a lot more the usual as people evolve to the cloud technologies and evolve to the cloud platforms. So making sure that secure home network, or at least the PC and the secure technologies are on there, it's not optional anymore. You absolutely have to have it.
So maybe you could talk a little bit about our philosophy, as you're advising clients and what clients are telling you, like, what's their philosophy? Should they just buy one of everything? Should they, because that seems like what, a lot of vendors out there, it's sort of like, again, like little Baskin Robbins security, 37 flavors, buy one of everything. Like, is that the right approach, to buy one of everything? Or, how are you advising, customers to kind of navigate this new hybrid world as it relates to security, specifically for the work from anywhere type of stack, right? The devices and the video and the infrastructure and all that jazz, unified communications, contact centers.
Yeah, security, it's a tough one, and there's a lot of mystery there for a lot of people. People know they need to adopt security better, but they're not quite sure where to start or how to do it. So what I usually tell people is you got to evaluate your business and understand what security means, and then because you can over-secure stuff as well, where it'll limit the operations within your business. So there's a few different standards out there that you can go and choose. We like to sort of sit down with a customer and talk through, what do you have today and what do you mean by security with your business, and walk through some different scenarios there in a pre-sales type of model. And then the best way I would always think to start is understanding, what assets you have on the network. What do you control? Are they secure? Are they patched? Do they have the right antivirus software? Are they really making sure that ransomware is held off at the edge as much as possible? Because those are some low table stakes. Do you have the right firewall technology? Do you have type of access control as new things come on the network? There's some table stakes stuff that you just need to sort of lay the groundwork with. But then there are other customers that really want to get more into the security model. So they need to have more of a managed detect response service. They need to make sure that they have a SOC service available on the backside, really taking alerts out of their infrastructure and the components and being able to correlate that data, see where the threats are at, and then go mitigate them as they end up coming in. So everyone's on a different security maturity mapping. There is a one size fits all. I have seen people take the approach of buy one of everything. That is one way to do it, not the way I would personally go do it. I think it's really understanding what the business needs for security. And then as you adopt the technologies, making sure you're getting the full use of that technology is comparing to buying another one where it may have the same functionality of what you purchased before, you just didn't turn the other set on. So laying out the architecture, understanding what you need, choosing the right products, maximizing those products, and then making sure it all talks to each other, and you as an IT administrator or a CIO are getting the right analytics out of it to meet the compliance standards, the contract obligations that you have, all the different things that run your business.
So what does secure by design mean to you?
Secure by design for us, it means that security is one of our offerings, but also we embed security into all of our offerings. So when you start thinking through the infrastructure and you start thinking through SD-WAN or secure access service edge, making sure security is just not optional in how the network is configured. As we start thinking through the devices, will we go sell some laptops here and there? Yeah, we will. But ideally, the overall experience needs to be secure and making sure it has the right security technologies on those devices as you roll them out. And then that just continues to go across all of our offers within the collaboration suite, making sure the contact center technology has the right security measures that are involved, visual collaboration as well. So we can talk about security standalone as supporting the infrastructure, but the other part is making sure it's just absolutely embedded and not optional in the rest of the overall offerings too.
Awesome. Hi, Eric. We got a couple of rapid fire questions to close out our inaugural Excellerate podcast. You ready?
All right, let's go.
Okay. In one sentence, how would you describe what the past year has been like for the technology industry in general?
I would say in one word, it's been a whirlwind. But I think truly in one sentence, end user adoption of technology is real. It's there. We have to evolve support. We have to evolve the technology. We need to continue to meet the end user's needs and continue to make sure that experience is key. And that's what I think in 2021 we learned there. But as we get into 2022, it's going to be doubling down even more on that hybrid work experience.
Okay, so that was 16 sentences. So I'll give you that one. In one sense, what do you think is going to be the predominant trend for customers in 2022 as it relates to technology?
Hybrid work, I think, is not going anywhere. It's here to stay. And like I said before, it works. So I think for our customers, making sure they're leveraging technology to enable whatever their hybrid work strategy is going to be key in 2022 because it's not a fad. It's not going away. Employees are going to want the flexibility to work from wherever, and IT's got to support that. And we're willing and able to help the IT departments of our customers support their new strategy.
Awesome. Well, Eric, thank you so much for allowing us to take a little bit glimpse into your crystal ball for 2022 and your perspective on some of the key trends that you're seeing with our customers, with our partners, internally as we're all living this life, this hybrid life. And thanks again. We look forward to having you back on a future Excellerate podcast. If you want to hear more about inspiring technology news, trends, capabilities, check out our next Excellerate podcast by subscribing here. Also check out NWNcarousel.com for some great information for the blogs, a lot of white papers and thought leadership we have there, some great videos from our customers. And with that, I want to thank everyone for tuning in today. Thank you again, Eric. It's been awesome spending the hour with you. And we'll see you on the next Excellerate podcast.
Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate the time.